Welcome back to the podcast. This week's episode is made possible by Fujifilm. More on them later. So we're back in. I'm joined by Rob yet again.
Hello.
We're on a podcasting day. This is, I believe this may be the final episode of the season.
I think mathematically that's correct.
I believe so. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. We did one for a Christmas special, which wasn't included in the numbers. So I think this may be it. This is our last one, and it is sponsored by Fujifilm and, of course, myself with Studio Access. And we'll go into that in a bit, but we've got a banger of an episode for the final here. We've got the updates on AI in the industry. I've got an advert to show you that we'll share it on screen. It is. We'll get to it in a bit. Rob's not seen it, only I've seen it, and it is caused raucous. So we'll get into that. We're going to talk a little bit about cheap software, good cheap software, not just cheap rubbish software. Talk about shooting with cheap lights, which is something I've been doing recently. The whys, the hows, the whats, the goods, the bads, everything about that. We're going to talk about the mistake that everyone makes with social media, and it's one of those things that's been brought to my attention a lot recently. We're going to go through that and the fix for it and how to get it sorted. We're going to talk about Gerald Undone. Do you watch Gerald Undone's
Yes.
channel? I thought you might do. I love Gerald Undone's channel.
I'm a nerd, of course I watch his channel. So
We're going to talk about him and his little rant he made this week. So I think it's very relevant, and it's interesting because it's something I'd noticed and I heard no one mention it, and then he's mentioned it. So we'll talk about that. So I think it's something that everyone needs to be aware that they're not starting to do. We'll go into that, and then a bit about life outside of YouTube, I guess, and the perhaps way that professionals present themselves compared to the reality, because I think that's very important. And again, somebody was talking to me recently. I was trying to help them out, and we're going through some things that may have been able to help them, and they had a very different idea as to what it was I did all day as to what I actually do all day. There's that. So where do we begin? Where do we begin on all of this? I suppose let's start with the cheap lights, because everyone loves my hatred for Godox.
Well, the perceived hatred.
The perceived
for Godox.
hatred. Now, I shot with some cheap. Now, for those who don't know, I'm going to say the rumor is, I don't want to get sued for any of this. The rumor is, so Bowens was the British lighting brand, and it was manufactured in the Godox factories. It's the same thing. It's just obviously newer, more modern versions of it. It's the same factory that makes them. Bowens and Godox very much. I mean, I'm pretty sure Godox white labels a lot of kit. Am I right in thinking?
Well, and they ODM for a whole bunch of other people as well.
There's a lot going on there. But yeah, so I've been shooting on my Bowens lights from the 1990s, which are, I mean, they're the best Bowens lights you can get. They're the Creo heads and packs. They're decent. It's the same as the P2400 Godox pack of today. They were expensive, but they are still cheap compared to other things. And someone was like, "Oh, where's all your broncolor light gone?" And I'm like, "It's in storage. It's all locked away in safes and storage units and all the rest of it." Like, why is that? I was like, "Well, because we store it nicely because it's really expensive. We just leave the Bowen stuff out, and the Bowen stuff is already out, so we often use it. Like, there is a broncolor pack ready to go next to the Bowens one down there, but it's in a flight case. I've got to open the flight case, and the Bowens one's already out.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, if we're not doing a job and it's just something we're shooting, like the video we did last week for the Platon style lighting, the Bowens light was out, and it's also already on the big boom arm. So I was like, well, it's on the boom arm anyway. We'll use that. And it is pretty much as good as broncolor. However, I went through the photos, and as I was shooting, the white balance slowly shifted. Not a lot, but we only shot for 20 minutes. Now I shot hard and fast, but there was a change. There was a inconsistency in power values, and again, it didn't matter what we're doing. But if it was a composite, it'd have been, well, as you know, in post, it's if you've got to try and balance multiple frames in post, it's not ideal.
Yeah, that's the extra 1%, really.
Yeah, and here's the thing though, you could do most of my work with Bowens lights. You can't do the freezing motion work, and even with the Godox and cheaper brands that say they do certain durations of flash, what they compromise to get there when they get there
is consistency,
and it's not consistent, because we've done it before with Godox stuff. You'll freeze 10 frames, and the 11th frame doesn't freeze, even though the settings haven't changed. It just can't function like that. So the big thing is, I suppose, everyone's like, well, do you need the expensive lights? And the answer is most of the time, no.
Yeah, most of the time, correct.
Yes. I shot my first few worldwide campaigns on Bowens and Godox, I'll say Bowens because that's what comes to mind for me, but I mean Godox as well. Loads of professional photographers I know who shoot ad campaigns own Bowen's lights.
But everybody did at one point.
Oh, in the UK, Bowen, what was the American brand equivalent? They had something called an Einstein, an Alien B, or something like that. I don't know. There was a.
Oh, is it? It's not Elinchrom, is it?
No, that's a Swiss.
Oh God, yeah, I know the one you mean. Yeah,
yeah, Alien Bees or whatever they're called. Yeah, it's the same thing. They were made by a different company altogether, but it's the same specs and stuff. And they're great. They do pretty much everything you need to do. But it's interesting that having not shot them much apart from the odd test shot here and there, having bought them out and shot for a day whilst we filmed, I did then run into all the problems with them. And it didn't matter for what we were doing. And because we're all one light setups, I can also just correct them all. And I shot on a white background, so you got a nice white point, which is stable.
This is back to what is your use case?
Yeah. If I was doing multiple light setups, it'd been a nightmare because if there were different powers that have adjusted at different amounts, and then it'd been
half your frame's blue, half of it's orange. That's difficult to correct.
That is very difficult to correct. But because it wasn't that, we just we made it work, and we ploughed through, and we ended up shooting black and white anyway for a lot of it, so it didn't matter at all.
That's one workaround.
Yeah, absolutely. I quite like the aesthetic of the Bowen's Creo.
Yeah, again, because again, you could walk into there was a time any studio you walked into had them, and you were like, "Oh, these guys, pro."
I bet the first lights I bought were the Bowen's 500, which is the same as getting a Godox 500 today. Gave them to Shane, didn't we?
Yes,
and they're still working now. Like I use them for 15 years.
Yeah, at full power all the time, obviously.
Always.
That's the only way.
Well, they're only 500 watts. There's barely enough light coming out of them. And then Stabilizer had the 1500 watt light, didn't he?
Yeah,
which is in his 2 meter squared studio.
yeah. That was a challenging use case for that.
It was but they were nice. They're massive though. They're like this long.
Yeah,
because there's no pack for those.
And just the heat that came out of it.
Yeah, it's melting the model's face off. But yeah, I think, and we talk about this a lot in photography, it's very easy to, it's easy to justify you do and you don't. It's quite difficult to actually work out whether you need something or not. You can justify anything to yourself. I mean, I've definitely gone, I definitely need, I bought a £2,500 bulb for one of my broncolor lights, different shaped tube. And I justified to myself that I had to have that. I think that's a pretty hard sell.
I mean, that's a whole lighting setup for someone. It's like a whole kit.
Yeah, it's a whole everything. It's a whole camera bag full of kit. It's it's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, I just thought I'd update people. I haven't shot on cheap lighting. Most of the shoots we've been doing recently, I've not done test shoots for ages. We've used all broncolor kit because it's all been important, and we just haven't had the time to do the creative work. And having still not done any creative work, but we did a bit of like studio access. I was like, we'll crack out the cheap lights. And there are limitations. Now, the limitations I see didn't matter, but I could see them. So some would say, well.
Yeah, I mean, they're there. And I say, if you're doing a 12-shot composite, it absolutely matters.
Yeah, well, it's the same when we get those, how do you pronounce these? Sure lights out. They're a different white balance to what they should be. They're not the right white balance.
Or at least not what they tell you they are.
Yeah, they're not, and they're not the same power they tell you they are either. They're close, but they're no cigar. Whereas the apertures are bang on.
Yeah.
And that becomes problematic. We can't mix the two. It's one brand or the other. Otherwise, you end up with weird colour shifts.
Yeah.
If we owned all Siru, correct?
Sure.
I'm never going to guess right, am I? If you owned only those, it wouldn't matter. We just globally correct the white balance.
Yes. But then when your lights are shifting shot to shot,
that's an issue.
Some shifting one way and some shifting the other. It's like they're not shifting consistently.
Yeah.
It then becomes a bit of a problem.
It does. It really does.
Again, depends on what you're doing. It might not matter.
And I'd say also, depending on how much money you've got, it depends on whether it matters or not.
Yeah, I mean, can you afford them?
Like, if I wanted better lights than what I've currently got, it's quite a big spend, especially on the video lights. I can't afford that. Doesn't matter whether it's a problem or not. I can't afford the solution.
No, I mean, like, you'd have to be going a long way to get better stills lights than the broncolor setup you have at the moment. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think Breeze offers something slightly better in certain use cases.
But again, you're like well into the laws of diminishing returns by this point.
Oh, God, yeah. And I can't afford it.
No. And that's a fair shout. I mean, again, your video light setup was relatively modest, but that's then based around the amount of money that's generated from said video lights.
Yeah, although to be fair, I think I could probably argue I make more from the video lights than the broncolor lights.
Well, yeah, but it's like buying a lottery ticket, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
At the time, well, I didn't even buy the video lights. I've never bought a video light. They've all been given to us. Full disclosure there, or paid to use. Which is another, I see a lot of these theories on kits I have, whether I'm just shilling it. Yeah. Like Aperture gave me the lights for free.
And
sent them over.
Unless you're into the realms of sort of Arri Sky panels and all the rest of it.
I mean, if Arri wants to send me some stuff, please do. But yeah, do highly rate the Apertures. The 600D Pros, they're banging lights. Would buy more.
Yeah. I mean, definitely plenty of juice. Again, good light quality.
Good build quality.
Built like an absolute tank. I mean,
it's broncolor build quality.
You know, the Transformers is ridiculous.
Yeah, they've travelled a lot with us. They've done a lot of hours. They've probably been used more than the broncolor lights.
Yeah, I could imagine that being the case.
Yeah, I'd imagine, because every still shoot we do videos of that out, and then YouTube.
Yeah.
And then a lot of still shoots we use the bones because it's already out.
Yeah, but that's stuff for your own personal things.
Yeah.
And I say in a situation where it didn't matter that much.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't have to be 100%. If it had to be 100%, you bust out the bronze.
Yes, that's true. Well, yeah, if it really had to be. I'm quite lazy. I do often make critical choices based on ease.
Based on what's ease. Well, that light's already set up, so we'll just use that.
Yeah, I mean, though, to be fair, when I've got crew in, I don't care what's easy because they're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely lazy. There's definitely like what's the easiest way to get this result about me? I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. There's a lot of corner cutting when I'm working by myself.
Yeah, but again, it's like, you don't want to be stressed wrestling with lights, cables and packs.
No.
If there's one already out and set up, what I'll do is plug it in, I'll just do that.
Good enough, isn't it?
Because again, it gives you more time and headspace to be creative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm talking about money saving and cheapness and all the rest of it. Cheap software. Software is not cheap for the most part. And now it's all on subscriptions. I mean, imagine how much you're going to spend in your lifetime on software nowadays compared to buying it. I mean, they've all got you on that. I mean, the benefit of subscription is that it's always upgrading, always updating, which is nice. You don't have to go, oh, no, I've got to spend another £800 on a new version because there's a new feature I need. That's nice. It's better for cash flow. But a lot of people, I'm like, oh, like last week we were saying, you've got to use Photoshop and Capture One. That's 2 subscriptions right there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they can't afford 2 subscriptions. And I think like looking at, like, I mean, if you're skint, have no money for software, get GIMP.
Yeah.
And do everything. You can do what they're called where you get the process to record it and it can batch edit through GIMP actions. Or
Yeah, but again, that was stolen from Photoshop.
Oh, it's all stolen from Photoshop. It's basically, it's basically like a knockoff version of Photoshop that's not as good.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this is going back some time now, but like creating your droplets where you could just grab the folder and drag it on the droplet and it just all happened for you magically. It was brilliant.
Yeah, so I think GIMP's a great starting point if you're skint.
Yeah, same in the 3D world. I mean, I'm a Cinema 4D user. I have been from day one, and mainly because it's cross-platform, not sort of PC only.
Yeah.
Blender is unbelievably powerful and completely free. So why would I stick with Cinema 4D? Well, mainly because Blender evolved around you having a middle button mouse click, which I know sounds like a simple thing, but it isn't.
I don't have a middle button.
And importantly, it's now my familiarity with it that I stick with Cinema 4D. The render engines I've got, they're all tied into it now. I'm kind of at the point where I almost want to change from, there's the nerdy bit now, kids, from Octane to Redshift.
I don't know what any of that means.
Well, Cinema 4D has its own built-in render engine, and,
right.
And you can create materials and all this sort of thing. Octane was one of the first, I suppose, efficient like photoreal render engines. Think of it, things like V-Ray and whatever that you'd have seen before, where you kind of forget that you're looking at something that's rendered because it just looks completely real.
Yeah.
So I've spent numerous years in Octane creating my own custom materials and all the rest of it. But it's just janky, man. I'm sorry, Octane guys.
I mean, familiarity is a really important thing.
Yeah, but again, back to stability. Octane's not stable.
Yeah.
Like you have to, before you even hit the word render, you have to remember to save your scene, because 8 times out of 10 it will crash on export.
Yeah,
and it's so frustrating. And I just know because Redshift is also made by Maxon, so it's the same people that make the Cinema 4D software. It's like, you know what, that's just going to work better. You know, the results between them are marginal, but it does mean going back and rebuilding every material I've made over the last number of years for that special thing, and which is like effort. So for now, I just plod on with the slightly janky Octane experience.
Slightly hating life.
Yeah, but again, in terms of the freebie software, if I was doing it today and I had no money, 100% I'll be on Blender.
Yeah. So we've got Blender, we've got GIMP. Now, in terms of photo organization, there's not really a good free software.
No, I don't think there is.
So what I would say is, if you've got £10 a month, get the Lightroom and Photoshop bundle.
Yeah, which I think has gone up now. It's like 15 quid a month or something.
Yeah, but if you cancel, they just give you £10 a month free, and they just keep cancelling.
That's a top tip.
Yeah, just keep cancelling. Say you can't afford it, and they'll just keep giving you cheap prices.
But I think that's actually reasonable value.
I think it's very good value,
to be honest. That's the annoying thing. If you want anything other than that, for example, if you wanted Illustrator,
then it's something like
no, you buy the whole cloud.
That issue. I've got that issue. I've got the whole cloud just so we can do the podcast. So I've got Photoshop and Adobe, whatever this is, Audition.
Yeah.
That's the only two bits you use, and it's extortionate. So yeah, I'd go for that next. Now, there's loads of like other versions of Photoshop that people keep mentioning in the comments. If they're anything but free, don't bother learning them.
Yeah, and none of them are.
Because eventually you're going to need to learn Photoshop if you want to have a career in this.
Yes.
Lightroom, sure. Comes with Photoshop, so you might as well use it if you're skinned. And then obviously the god tier is Capture One and Photoshop. But of course, that is expensive.
Yeah. But if you're into that ecosystem, you are probably working at a professional level.
Yeah. But it's that tricky bit though, isn't it? It's like, I don't make money yet. I don't have money, but I need to learn how to do this thing, and I can't afford to. I remember coming across that loads on the start of my career. I was like, great, I can't afford the software to learn how to use what everyone else is doing. What do I do? And I can't make money because I don't have the software.
Yeah,
it's always chicken and egg, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and especially like people coming out of university and what have you.
Yeah.
It's like, you think they're, I wonder what they teach them, honestly. I remember recently having to do some interviews for a graphic designer, and I said, well, here's the thing: people will say anything in a CV and tell you anything to your face.
Yeah.
So I decided to set some practical challenges. I said, well, if you're working here, you're going to be expected to use Photoshop, and you're expected to be using InDesign on an almost daily basis. So if you're not competent with these two, and they're like, yeah, mate, got it all sorted, got it on lock. I said, right, okay, right, take this object, isolate it from the background, and you've used for all of these cases. Everybody just spent like the 20 minutes I gave them to do the task, which is more than enough time.
Yeah.
Spent 19 of those 20 minutes messing about with the quick select tools. And you're laughing, but these are kids like straight out of college and university, apart from one guy's case, but we'll come back to him in a minute. And it was like, well, is this what they're teaching you? I mean, like, you've been through uni, probably cost you like 20, 30 grand's worth of debt.
But
to be taught completely the wrong way to do it.
So you've met Evie?
Yes.
Yeah, so Evie, fresh out of university, knows everything. Other people in her degree, absolute space cadets.
Yeah.
It's definitely, the opportunity is that, like, it's the same with we went to university. So you could go and do my degree and you could come out knowing nothing with a first class degree. Or you could come out with like a 2-2, but having done all the extra stuff and actually learn how to do a job with it. But it's on the individual. Like, if they just coast through, they come out going, I've got a degree in this. Do you know how to do it? No.
Yeah. But it's definitely a barrier to getting hired if you don't actually know what
I met a photographer with a first class degree from DMU, and she didn't know how the exposure triangle worked.
Yeah, but again, I mean, we've always said this. It's like, I don't personally see the value in a photography degree. Again, with one small caveat, of course, like there always is. Unless you want to be a curator in a fine art photography museum, you've got no business doing that as a degree.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you don't know what else to do, I think having a degree nowadays is good because...
Oh, you have to have a degree to even get past an interview for McDonald's.
So like any degree is a good degree nowadays in the UK. I also think it's a great learning experience because you don't have the same employment opportunities right now. So going into the work before you go, oh, just go and get a job.
No. Those days have sailed.
You need to delay that for as long as possible because there's not that many jobs around, at least not good paying ones.
No. And believe me, I'm not advocating that people don't go to university.
Yeah.
Like,
but you do not need a photography degree.
No, I mean, you're better off spending your 3 years doing a business and marketing degree and then go and buy a camera.
Yeah.
And you'll be streets ahead.
Yeah. Although I must say, my biggest regret is not doing a photography degree. But then I don't think I'd be as successful as I am today because I'd have gone down the documentary route and I'd have been a poor, starving artist.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that you got to look at, I mean, you know, how would having that as a degree of improve the situation you currently find yourself at?
Yeah, definitely not.
And in most cases, it wouldn't have.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the good thing I didn't go that route because now I can afford things like today's sponsor, Fujifilm cameras.
What a great segue.
Oh, no, I love that. Let's bang it in. And today's sponsor is Fujifilm. As you know, the Fujifilm GFX system is my camera of choice and has been all year. We use it for the larger than full frame sensor, the great color depth and the usability. It's been a great asset to have those 100 megapixels on set, especially for post-production and commercial work. The other amazing benefit to the Fujifilm system is the colors. I've been using Velvia in recent months, and just to have that starting point before you go into post-production is so useful. And it just makes so much sense to me coming from like a film stock background of going, yes, this is what we want. We want the saturation, we want the detail, the smooth tonality. Velvia is obviously the choice for me. And of course, you can choose from any of their famous film stocks from back in the day and have that brought directly into your digital camera. Super, and we are very, very grateful for Fujifilm for sponsoring us. And full disclosure, I paid for my camera cash money by myself. In hindsight, if I was a bit more business savvy, I'd have got them to give me a camera.
Yeah, but at least there's a sense of legitimacy about that, of having Fuji sponsor.
Well,
after you don't need any kit from them.
Yes, yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, if they'd like to chuck you a couple of lenses, you're probably not going to say no. But,
oh, absolutely not. Now, so here's the interesting thing for today. We're going to get a screen recording to pop up here. We're on adsoftheworld.com. This is where the adverts go, so you can look at what's going on in the world. If you didn't know, if you made it this far, this is probably the most useful information you have if you didn't know this existed, because this is where you see adverts. This is the Nissan advert. And Rob's not seen this. I'm going to angle this a bit towards you so you can stand a fighting chance. Now, at first, this looks like a pretty good photo, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As you zoom in, where's his fingers gone? Gets worse, though. I mean, the facial expression makes very little sense, but what's happened to his foot? These are AI-generated... I mean, the background gets even more insane. AI-generated adverts. And there's all kinds of AI finger art. I mean, look, this finger's got two fingers.
I mean, it's in the sci-fi realm.
It gets worse. It gets worse. Where is this leg coming from on this dog? What is like the dog centipede? This guy's only got 3 legs. This one, I don't know what's going on with these legs. This one looks okay. And then the person's face. That's the best expression AI could come up with. And the weird hand. You've got the claw 2-finger hand as well. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, it does scream AI-driven, doesn't it?
This one's not so bad. Everyone's got all the fingers they require.
But here's the thing.
The faces.
But there's not one of those images could not have been shot with real people.
Oh, no.
There's literally zero reason to have used AI for this.
I mean, there's something up with the seagull legs.
I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, you know, that's a cheeky composite at the best of times. I mean...
And what's going on with this fishing line? So you've got a fishing line coming down here. It's going into the seagull. The fishing rod's over here. It has no line. Oh, no, the fishing line's going this way. There's the fishing line there. But what's his face doing? And what's his fingers doing? So here's the thing. Like, from a quick glance, it looks, I mean, that foot you can't really unsee. And the same with the dog leg.
Yeah, it's literally on the wrong side of his body, but...
And, you know, but the facial expressions are horrendous. They're all this, like, slightly gormless look. The thing is, this is not a small... I know it's like, oh, it's in Nicaragua. This is not a small agency. But like, these are not small fry people. This was an expensive campaign. 2 things. One, AI sucks. Like, it sucks. But here's what's really worrying. This hasn't accidentally slipped through the net. This has gone through many sets of eyes, and it's acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen any uproar online about this.
No. I mean, I would argue, at least in my case, I was completely unaware it existed. But then maybe it's not been distributed in Europe and the UK. But it does explain why Nissan find themselves in the difficult position they are. Now, I believe this is... I'd be interested to know when this was published. Does it tell you that?
Often does. No, it's recent though. So I saw this on LinkedIn. A photographer whose name I can't remember now. Sorry, mate. Shared it, and no one really saw it or picked up on it. What's that behind him? Is that a Nissan car? Just,
I mean, again, pointless if it is, because you can't recognise it.
I mean, there's so much wrong with this one.
Yeah, that's the Seagull one's the worst of the bunch. At worst, it looks like a bad composite.
What's this face doing? So, 2 points to this. One, AI clearly can't replace photography. Because these would never, like, these facial expressions alone would not make it past AI.
But none of these, I mean, that's like what? 5 dogs and a runner. That's not an expensive shoot to put together. Let's be honest.
So this would be, what, a £60,000 shoot?
But again,
I mean, you could do it. That's how much it would cost, though. That's the. I doubt it was that much cheaper with AI. AI is not a cheap day out. It's like CGI. Whenever we can CGI, I'm like, go and get a quote, mate. Come back to me when you've seen the price.
It's most often cheaper, better than practically, and 100% that's the case here.
Who didn't notice the dog having 3 legs at the front? He's like a tripod. Poor guy. And this foot.
Yeah. The foot's not the biggest thing. It's the
and the fingers.
It's the fingers. It's the Zoidbergs.
And the faces. It's just, I mean, it's so weird. But it's accepted. So my worry is not that AI can do a better job than photography. Clearly, right now, it can't. My worry is that people don't care.
Or just again, because if you're running this through creative types, all these things would have been picked up on. The fact you're running it through execs and say, look how much money we've saved on this shoot, brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, I've had arguments over finger placements and we've ended up on a can. We've got a can like this. So does a little finger go here or here? We're arguing this for ages. I don't understand why no one saw those like freakish hands. Or foot.
And this is why people are predicting Nissan could be gone within 12 months.
I mean, obviously cutting something badly here, aren't they? But I mean, it's just... I mean, me personally, I think I'm not worried about AI. Because it can't... I mean, if you saw the conversations we had on sets with clients where they want minor adjustments, you can't make minor adjustments. Make a minor adjustment, the whole image recalculates pretty much. And you can't be specific enough. We're literally having conversations about whether a drop should be 2 millimeters left or right. It's that specific on set. I don't think it's going to be cheaper. I think by the time they've got it as good, it won't be cheaper.
No. As I say, it's back to the
like
CGI.
Yeah, everyone was terrified of CGI. Scott, your work's going to be replaced by CGI. It looks like CGI. Nobody uses CGI instead of me. No, too expensive, too slow.
Well, and
it looks like CGI.
It looks like CGI, and there's, especially with AI driven stuff, there's been such a pushback.
Oh, I mean, our kids hate it, and rightly so. It looks awful.
I mean, there's a lot to hate in that picture with the seagulls.
Yeah, it's awful. They've butchered that, but yeah, I mean, it's worrying that this got through for a brand that big, for an agency that big. It's concerning that is acceptable to be published. That should have been stopped at many points.
Oh, I mean, you literally could have gone onto Adobe Stock, found 3 or 4 images, made a composite, done.
Yeah.
And it's better than that.
Yeah.
And a fraction of the cost of what that would have been.
Yeah, I mean, I've still not lost a job to AI.
No.
And everyone assumes my style of work will be the first to go. I'm still getting inquiries coming in thick and fast. And AI is not stealing them.
And I say, and how do you do that? I mean, as we've had, well, I say you and when I've been on set with you, you've got the client on there, like the whole up a bit, down a bit, left a bit.
Yeah.
Because some of them are more finicky than others. Again, it's their brand, and that they have the right to do that. That's what they're paying you to create what they've got in their head.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen there.
No, it's never going to happen. It's never going to be something which works, unless they change the entire way that AI functions, which they can do.
Yeah, I mean, again, it will evolve, of course.
But then,
But here's the thing. If people stop taking photos because they've been replaced by AI, where does AI draw its data from?
Well, I was listening to a very interesting study recently, and it's that AI has hit the capacity of the data it has already.
Yes.
It needs more data putting into it. So the outcomes are no one puts any more data into it. It stops where it is. It's not good enough. People create new things, and we're always ahead of AI.
Yeah. Well, AI can't. It can only draw from what's out there on the web.
Yeah, I mean, all these things to save time and money. Let's take self-checkouts, for example. I know everyone's putting their like cheap yellow apples through and taking pink ladies. Like there's a cost to everything.
Yeah.
I see them there. They're like, 20 pink lady apples going through, and they're putting through the budget. The yellow ones that make you do this when you eat them, the horrible apples, the small apples.
Ones, yeah.
Like you see them all like rinsing all the bags for free and stuff. And everyone's angry. Like I'm furious that at Marks and Spencer's I had to use a self-checkout recently. I'm like, I'm not paying these prices.
I mean, that's first world problems right there.
I know, right? But I'm not paying these prices to scan my own food. I want a nice little bit of polite chit chat and someone to scan my food for me.
Yeah, I mean, the rationale for the supermarkets is it's what in the trade called shrinkage.
Yeah.
It's what they expect to be stolen from the store every day.
Yeah.
You say, well, yes, but by people going on self-checkout, they will.
Oh, God, yeah.
Work the system, take the bags for free, that's it. But the savings of that is still greater than
the cost of
staff. And I think that's a bit of a backwards way to look at it, unfortunately, especially when supermarkets are literally making record profits.
Oh, no. I mean, I don't even go to Marks and Spencer's all the time anymore and it really irks me because you go to Marks and Spencer's, one, for the quality of food and two, for the quality of service. And when one of those elements is removed,
yeah,
and like there's nobody on a till, I'm like, no, I'm not paying your prices to scan my own food. This is like, I don't get an invite to the Christmas party. It's ludicrous.
I know. I mean, I felt fancy the other week when I had to go to Sainsbury's to buy some pork belly.
Oh, Sainsbury's is nice as well, though. But again, self-checkout.
Not the one.
Not the one. And they've closed all the cafes down in Sainsbury's as well, so you can't have a load of coffee afterwards.
Yeah, well, I'm going to blame Jamie Oliver for all of that.
Yeah, goddamn Jamie. But there we go. That's that. So next up, I want to discuss this social media issue that everyone's having at the moment. And it is where to share your work. Should you share your work? Number of followers you need to be a photographer. And I had this conversation with a one-to-one recently, and I won't name them, so I'm sure they don't mind me saying it, but they're like, I've only got 1,000 followers on Instagram. Is that enough? And I was like, enough for what? Like, what is your aim here? I was like, to be taken seriously. I was like, you don't need any followers to be taken seriously. There's no direct correlation between number of followers and quality of work. If anything,
it's inverse.
Well, there's a bit of rubbish photographers have very few followers. And one of the things I say is, if you've got no followers, no one's liking your work, first thing to look at is, does my work suck or is it not interesting? Like, if you're posting your pack shots onto Instagram, you better believe no one's liking those.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you have loads of followers, it doesn't mean you're good. Like, there's people with YouTube channels who have like 1 million followers on Instagram. Their photos are average. Like, they're competent and well taken, but they're not going to get a job anytime soon. But they're not being followed for that. They're being followed for who they are.
Yeah.
And I follow these people because I find them interesting. So there's no minimum number of followers you need. What you're aiming to do with social media, what you're hoping to do is engage your potential clients. Now, my Instagram is all kinds of screwed up because now a large percentage of the following is photographers from YouTube who found me and then gone through to there, which maybe I shouldn't have linked it. That was maybe a mistake on my part.
Well, they're going to find you anyway. It's not.
I suppose so.
Thing, is it?
I suppose so. But I mean, my Instagram is just used for me as a professional photographer. It's nothing to do with my YouTube. I have started sharing the podcast, which was a big step for me. It was a big change doing that. But it is just my work. And here's what I hope to get out of my social media. I hope to engage with the creative directors and art buyers of the world. I hope to share my life with them as a photographer, and I hope to share my work with them as a photographer. It's better than a website because every day they're seeing it and they're not having to log in. They're already logging into it. They're going into the software anyway. Whether I get 10 likes or 1,000 likes, I don't care. What I care about is, has this person from this agency seen my work today? Because it's constantly reminding them that I exist. And eventually they'll get to a point where they go, got a job in. Oh, yeah, Scott's good for that. That's what social media's for.
Yeah, and with the best will in the world, they're not going to visit your website every day to see if there's any updates.
No,
Not
exactly.
happening.
So, do that. So what I do is I use my grid for sharing my portfolio. I then share those posts to my stories, and every day I just post stories behind the scenes, often of my dog. Like, it's not like I'm shooting every day or week. Like,
Yeah.
Picture of my dog, picture of my car, something about me, something a little bit personal. Don't really share my family on there because there's too many randomers now. I don't want that sort of being shared. But
I was going to take a picture earlier of our Thelma and Louise moment.
Yes, yeah, we were in the Ragtop MX-5 together. We didn't do top down. That might have been a little bit too much for us.
I should have gone for it and fully embraced that.
Oh yeah, well, maybe it's a look. It's a life choice. But yeah, a lot of photographers are getting so het up on like views and clicks and things like that. It doesn't matter now. On this podcast, the number of views we get does matter.
Yeah, because that's how you get paid.
Because that's how we get paid. And we have sponsors, and they're expecting a certain amount of eyes on the sponsorship deal. That matters. But on my photography work, I mean, it still matters the number of views, but not in the gross sense. What really matters is who those views are.
Yeah, that's the important part. Who's actually looking at you.
And it's sharing yourself as a human being. You've got to get that human, because I'm shooting adverts. No one wants to see adverts on their feed of adverts already. I've got to, add the human element through stories. And
yeah. A phrase that we used to use a lot was people by people.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I am trying to change it. But the problem is, so what I want to do, instead of posting my work to my grid, is I want to post behind the scenes shots. But I don't always have someone taking shots. And I don't always have a good still. So I don't know how I'm going to work with that.
I mean, you're always a big fan of cheeky time lapses, and
yeah,
you need to maybe get back on that train.
I know it's the clicking, so I need to get a mirrorless camera for it. There we go.
That's a reason to buy one.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of mistakes and that sort of thing. And it actually is something we were just waiting for it to render. So a bit of a render backlog at the moment. But over on Studio Access, we did a review of people's social media accounts from what they're trying to achieve and what they're doing. I didn't find a single person who was putting out work, which was what they were trying to sell, which is fascinating. And obviously it's an issue. Like you only get booked for what you show. And if you're showing other stuff, you're not going to get booked for it. And which reminds me, Studio Access is the second sponsor for today. Studio Access is the platform for those of you who want a more in-depth look at photography and videography. It's not the quick fixes we share over on YouTube, it's the more in-depth and detailed information that takes longer to put out there. This is looking at behind the scenes on shoots, working with top stylists, assistants and digitechs, right the way through to practical things like security for your camera equipment, how we make sure that we don't get cleared out, looking after your lighting, care of fuses, bulbs, domes, and all of that information that just isn't for most photographers. Studio Access is designed for those who really want to excel in photography, be it as an amateur hobbyist, an artist, or a commercial photographer. It's really for those who want to go above and beyond what's available on the YouTube platform. If you head over to tinhouse-studio.com, you can find Studio Access over there, or the link down below in the comments, as well as in the description for this video. Okay, so this is Gerald Undone video. I don't know if you've seen it or not, where he's going on a bit of a rant.
I haven't actually.
Now, I like Gerald Undone. He does these ridiculous tech reviews that are completely pointless. I actually don't care about... I watch them about stuff I have no intention of. I just like his presentation. Great YouTuber. And he was moaning about... I say moaning, I think it was right what he said, about people... saying certain things about him or complaining about him, like, how dare you review cameras when you don't shoot images? It's like,
well, that's someone that maybe watched his channel once. You have to understand what he does.
Yes,
he's almost like a human DxO Mark. It's the best way I can describe his channel.
The things I love about him are his battery reviews. It's little things like working out if you leave the battery on the charger, does it decharge? Because that's important to know. You work that out the first time at a very bad time.
Oh yeah. It's like the charging case for my Rode mics.
Yes.
If you leave it charging of its own power, when it's fully charged, it turns the things on, and then they discharge everything. So
Yeah,
next time
yeah.
you pick it up, everything's flat, and including the power banks underneath it. It's like, it's ridiculous.
Yes, yeah. Never underestimate the Chinese R&D.
Or lack
Yeah.
of in this case.
So anyway, we went on this thing, and it's interesting. I started noticing a change. Like, online trolling's always existed since the dawn of forums. There's a change in the trolling. There's still the old school trolls, and the reason I'm bringing this up is I always analyze how I behave as a human, because I try and be the best person I can be, because I have, and Rob will attest to this, I've definitely not always been a good person.
I mean, you've had your moments.
I've had my moments.
Some more colourful than others.
Yeah,
I think it's probably fair
I
to
have
say.
not always been a good person. For various reasons that we won't go into, but various things happened in my life, and it made me behave like a bit of a twat for large portions of it. So I do try and make sure that I behave as a good human being. And there is a new form of trolling, which is gaslighting, that I've started seeing on YouTube. And it's fascinating, because it's obviously a cultural phenomenon, because he also commented on this. And it is people saying, so what you're saying is this, and then putting in their own thing, which is not what you said at all.
Yeah.
And that is gaslighting, which is, well, one, it's a form of abuse. And two, it's a sign of narcissism. Now, everyone has narcissism. I don't want to go too much into this. It's a bit psych related here. Everyone has narcissism, but what you don't want to do is let it overtake itself, and you end up having narcissistic personality disorder, which the majority of trolls have, which is what studies have shown. That's like if someone trolls online or leaves abusive comments or negative comments, it is generally a pretty safe indicator that human is a narcissist.
Yeah.
And the problem is narcissists don't get diagnosed because they're narcissists.
It's not something you go to your therapist or doctor for, is it?
No.
I think I might have malignant narcissism. Chances are you do, dude.
It's funny. I was having this conversation with my girlfriend years ago. I was like, I think I might be a narcissist. And she was like, yeah, no, that's not how it works, Scott. Like, you have narcissistic traits in certain situations, but the fact that you think you might be narcissistic and you can realize those means you
because they never know.
Yeah, but it's this whole new thing, and it's just complete. And I had a look on, like, the best place to look for these sorts of horrible people are on, like, local area group chats or any police account on Facebook in the comment section. And the amount of people who are now doing this new form of trolling, which is gaslighting, where they take someone's comment and turn it into whatever it is they want it to be.
Yeah. Restate their version of the comment, not the actual comment verbatim, like you would hope they would do. Exactly.
Now, I've noticed this a lot on my videos recently. Oh, so what you're actually saying is this? It's like, no, what I'm saying is exactly what I said. I think it's, like, from a social standpoint, it's quite fascinating that the internet trolling is changing from just, like, mean comments to gaslighting. And what this brings me through to is, because I know a few YouTubers outside of YouTube, and I know many photographers outside of their professional sphere. And going back as well to the comment where somebody was, like, concerned about how much work I do and that they should be doing as much work as I do. When you go for a job interview, you put your best foot forward.
Of course.
Yes, absolutely. When you're on social media, that is like a daily job interview. So on my Instagram, it's my best foot forward every day. And if I post something negative on there, it is calculated. It is because it's funny and I don't mind making a fool of myself. But I won't post certain things which make a fool of myself, because I know it actually just shows that I'm incompetent, and that's not ideal. On YouTube, I post the version of myself that is for YouTube. It's the educator. Mm-hmm. It is authoritative. It is confident in what I say, because I make sure that what I'm saying I know to be true. But there's a whole load, as Rob will attest, I know very little outside of what I say on YouTube.
Well, that's the reason I was here most of the time.
Exactly. So it's not like I walk around the world going, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, does anybody know how to do this? Who can help me do this? I have no idea what's going on here. It's a very different thing. And I think it's very easy. And I've done this. And it was interesting. So I assumed Cole Taylor, for example, was a certain type of human being. And we had a couple of chats away from camera. Chatting about what he's interested in. I had no idea he was interested in, like, racing motorbikes at the speed of light, 'cause he's a bit of a thrill seeker. He likes going deep sea diving. Well, I knew that because he shared his documentary with me previously. But I didn't know that about him. I just assumed he was a very straight-laced sort of guy, and
yeah, because that's the YouTube face of Cole Taylor.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, like, because sometimes I see comments and I forget that they're commenting on the version of me they see online, not who I am as a person.
Oh, they don't know you.
No, exactly. And it's really weird because I see his comments and I'm like, well, that's not true. And I'm like, oh no, that is actually how I presented that. And I think like when you're being a photographer, like when I'm quite an introverted person. I find being in social situations exhausting. So it's my birthday in a few weeks' time and I'm going out with my mate. And he was like, who else is going? I was like, it's just us two, mate. It's just a date for two. And he was like, oh yeah, of course it is. I was like, yeah, well, I'll do one social activity at a time with one person at a time. I don't want to go out with 10 people at once.
No, and on your birthday, you should get to do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the one day of the year I can. So I'm going out, say, for example, with 10 people on 10 separate occasions rather than one time with 10 people because I don't like that. I've lost my train of thought now. I went on that tangent.
YouTube face,
yes. And it's to say, like, so yes, when I go on set as a photographer, my girlfriend would not recognize who I am on set as who I am because I have to put on my big boy pants and go, this is terrifying. Everybody in the room is looking at me to fix any problems. I haven't got a both the time I'm sitting there going, well, I know what I'm doing, but if it doesn't work, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I hope my crew know how all the kit works because they've sent pro photo and I don't know how to plug the bloody things in because there's like some weird twisty bayonet thing. I don't know how to get the modifiers on. You've got to change the light bulbs in some of them. I don't know how to do that. The client's looking at me to be the all-seeing, all-knowing. I've got to turn up, be super confident, super friendly, very, very sociable, which results in the shoot finishing, me crashing and burning, going straight to the pub, having several pints and a couple of tequila slammers, and then crashing out in a hotel room for 24 hours.
Yeah.
But the point was that this person was like, oh, you hustle so hard, you're working all the time. Like today, I'm knackered this week. I had a migraine at the start of the week. It's now 3:00. We're filming the second podcast for the day. In between, we tinkered with my car, bought a battery, and faffed around. Didn't do anything of any relevance whatsoever because
we were offloading data, in fairness.
Yeah, but we had enough drives to shoot again.
Yeah.
We could have done 3 podcasts today, but we didn't because I know that I am at my limit for burnout. And if I do a solid day, if we did a day today of all filming and shooting for 8 hours, I'd need to take 3 days off next week. So
we could shoot 6 podcasts back to back in a day.
Yeah, and we've done that. And when I'm on form, I can do that. When I'm like rested and well and everything. But I guess the point is, if you see and it looks like I work at 1,000,000 miles an hour all the time and it's complete hustle culture over here, it's not. We take the approach of crash and burn. So we work insanely hard and then we do absolutely nothing because we're absolutely destroyed. And some people would say, why don't you pace yourself? It's like my energy levels don't work like that. I can't do 9 to 5 grinding I'm either all in and nothing else matters to the point that I have to set alarms to eat, drink and leave work, or I'm doing nothing. There's no in between. What's your work like? Are you like that, or are you more you're quite steady as you go, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I can deal with most things. I mean, I use this analogy a lot. Someone was saying, like, when push comes to shove and things need doing, he said, no one better than Rob. He said, it just seems to find another gear. And I'm saying, yeah. And then someone said, well, why don't you just do that all the time? I said, well, Usain Bolt, fastest man on the planet over 100 meters. Can he keep that pace up for a marathon? No, he cannot. No. So, it's okay to spike like that every so often. And I mean, every so often I have what I refer to as Hell Week, where I know it's going to be horrible.
Oh, yeah, we have those.
The whole thing where I know the whole week. But if I get through that, next week, then I'm allowed this time off and all the rest of it. So, I'm always doing some things to get bored easily. But, it's particularly now I'm getting a bit older. And now I have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I've got to, make time for other things, and that's okay. So if I have to work like a beast in one week to then give me a free weekend off the next one, I'll do that.
No, exactly. And I think I've got to make sure. So I'm on a Saturday now. So tomorrow I am doing. So I wake up early, get up at 6, because I always get up at 6. I've discovered that waking up at the same time every day, if it's early, is fine. Waking up at 6, 5 days a week, and then sleeping in 2 others ruins you.
Yeah, because it breaks you.
Yeah, so get up at 6, I walk the dog till 7, I'll go to the gym, be home by 8 a.m, which is when the older kids wake up pretty much. And then I'm doing stuff with the kids all day long. And then at 5 p.m. at dinner time, I'm going to switch myself off. And then Monday morning, I'm back in.
Yeah.
And we've got a shoot next week. We've got meetings in London next week. Well, 2 shoots next week, meetings in London. A whole load of stuff to get done. Got to edit these podcasts. And I just have to kind of space those out in a way that it's like, say, Monday, I have got to get all the paint in for some set building. So we're going to get the paint in and probably paint the sets if we've got time, if the dog's not with me. Can't paint when the dog's in here.
No. And I think that's another thing that people don't get to see. It's like when people say, oh, I'm shooting for 2 days next week, they think, oh, if he's doing 2 days work, that's easy enough.
Hell no. That's a 7-day week, 2-day shooting.
Yeah.
And then post the week after.
And it's rare for you to do for that reason that you don't normally have time to have 2 shoots back to back. Because normally you're like a week in discussion.
Yeah.
And then 2 or 3 days prep, like a day's pre-light, and then you'll do the shoot. So by the time you're done with it all, before you even start to edit everything, you're into 2 weeks for a shoot.
We had that job last year, which was we did a 5-day shoot for this brand. And there was so much set building that we were in Saturday, Sunday preparing. And the produce turned up from Panama. That was it. I had to go Friday, the produce turned up, and too much turned up, which is why we've now got an extra fridge in the studio. Then we built all the sets over the weekend, so I let everyone in. I did nothing at the weekend. I was like laid around, annoying people, backseat driving as usual. We shot for 5 days, and I went out for dinner every night with a client, and they were boozy. And it was like, I tried to keep a lid on it, but like they wanted me to drink, so I had to comply, basically, which is, it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And then we finished that. You came in to help me edit at the weekend. And this agency went, can we get 3 more days in next week? Because we've got another product from the same umbrella company. And whilst we're already here, they'd flown in from abroad to shoot this. Can we do that? And we're like, yeah. So we did those 3 days shooting. And then we backed into another job, which was at the end of the next week. And then the retouching was 2 weeks. And we had Sophie Bronze on it, and yourself, and Bav, and me. So I think you and Bav were doing the nuts and bolts, and I was doing the finesse of all the like tiny little bits that, it needs like my eye to do rather than it's definitely like this. It's like, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I think I didn't do anything for 6 weeks after that. I was broken. The long days, you get in here at 6 in the morning.
It was intense because there were just so many products.
I know, 2, 3 a.m. the next day, you're still out drinking.
There's a lot to get through.
It's should have slept in the studio really, but I've always got to get the kids in as well.
We've been on those, where I've left you. Well, we ended up taking it back to your house to finish.
Oh yeah, what was that for? That was
Domio.
Yeah.
And I left yours at 5:45 in the morning.
Yeah,
having finished it.
Yeah,
went home, had a shower, and straight off to work.
Yeah.
Believe me, I slept like a baby that night.
I bet you did. But I find that the next day I'm knackered, but by the time it's bedtime, I'm like, oh, I'm good to go again.
Whack-a-days again. It's like.
So yeah, I think like you need to take what people say on YouTube as a small percentage of what's actually going on.
Yeah, and the same with any social media. It's like, there's always the meme T-shirt. I wish my life was as fabulous as it is on Instagram.
Oh yeah, there's that as well. I mean, mine's probably quite accurate on Instagram from what I post in stories because I find it funny when things go wrong. Like, I find hilarity in most things. But yeah, I think it's very easy to assume that everything's swimming all the time when really we're like,
yeah, it's not the case.
No, you sat there the day before a shoot and the bloody courier's gone to the wrong studio with your cameras and the lenses have turned up at the right studio, and it's like your food stylist has got like, oh, what do we have once? It was the Digitech the night before got a stomach. No, they all got food poisoning on the shoot from the day before.
Oh.
Like the whole crew was wiped out, and they're like, "Do you want me to come?" I was like, "No, don't come." I was like, yeah, obviously, like it's not, don't come in. Paid them anyway because I was like, it's not your fault. You've got food poisoning.
Yeah, from the onset catering.
Yeah, I know, dicks. Don't use that catering company. I can't name them. Actually, I won't. But it's not a one-off either. They are cheap as well, if you're wondering.
Well, for a reason, by the sound of it. Well, no, if you take the staff costs into it, that was the most expensive catering you've ever had.
Oh no, imagine. But then I've got to find a new Digitech for the next day, and obviously I've got agents and producers. Yeah. So I phoned them up, and we need a Digitech, but I can't just leave them to it because it's got to happen. So I'm on the phone as well. I'm phoning everyone up. I'm like, I've phoned Paul up. I was like, Paul, do you know how to choose Capture One? He's like, no, but I could learn by the morning. I was like, okay. I was like, right, Paul can learn Capture One by tomorrow. Let's get another assistant in. That might be easier. We've got options here to play with. It's I mean, obviously we never filmed those disastrous moments because we're too busy dealing with the disaster.
Yeah, you've got to solve the problem first.
Fix that before it gets really out of hand. We've been on set before when the kit's not all there, like the triggers aren't there, and we're just like pretending that we're working so the client doesn't notice we've messed up. And yeah, sometimes like this Friday I got home, Holly was like, how's your day? I was like, it's absolutely horrific. I did nothing of merit. I didn't achieve anything. I didn't even try my to-do list. I was just like, I'm not in the mood for it. I was tidying stuff up in the studio. So yeah, I think it's important to note that although things look rosy on social media,
Because of course they do. That's your best foot forward, isn't it?
yeah, it's your CV, it's all the rest of it. It's I'd imagine my life is at least as disastrous and chaotic as yours, probably more so because I'm quite disastrous and chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to be kind of more mellow.
Yes, you're very much. I'm very highly strung. I'm not as much as I was. I think with my better behaviour in life has come a more calm nature.
See, many years of Japanese martial arts got that Zen Buddhism
Yeah.
down. That, so I refuse to get rattled. All right, it takes a lot to kind of get me animated.
Yeah, I think many years of excessive stimulants, especially. I mean, even Diet Coke's pretty caffeinated. Had this because I can't stomach any more coffee. Although, what are you cracking on with there?
No, it's Narcos. If anyone's thinking about it, can't recommend it. I
got given a load of those Christmas. I drank one of them and nearly died. So I thought I'd pass it on to you.
Yeah, it's literally the only cold thing you had in your fridge that wasn't booze.
It is. Yeah. Nothing but champagne in the fridge, darling.
I've been a bit bougie, maybe for the new Christmas special. But...
Yeah, we need to stock the fridge again with drinks. Actually, that's on my to-do list. It's difficult when you've got a dog though. This is an extra which people don't realise. You've got a dog that's it's so cute. Can't go to the supermarket.
No, and you've only got one hand free while you're wrestling this like enormous golden retriever.
But there we go. Anyway, that's probably a good time to leave this and to leave the season. We'll be back with season 3. We don't know how we're financing it yet, so it could look very different. We're definitely getting rid of these. These are going. Well, we'll probably keep the same aesthetic. Maybe we'll change the aesthetic for season 3. Maybe we'll change the look.
We've got time to have a think, haven't we?
Going to do a bit of an analysis on what was good, what was bad, what worked, what didn't work, and hopefully come back a bit better next season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, any suggestions, put them in the comments.
Please do. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Cool. I'll let you do the...
Yeah, and
nice.
rolling.